This is a revision presentation on how we use curves to represent the concept of externalities. There's one thing that's really important here, and that's to separate off firms and consumers. When we're talking about firms, we're talking always about the act of production. And so whenever we're talking about something that affects what firms do, we're going to be talking about the cost curve, okay, because that's what reflects production and firm decisions. The alternative, of course, is to talk about consumers, in which case we're talking about the act of consumption, and for that instead we're going to have curves that represent benefits instead. So if you take a look at this diagram, we have the marginal private cost curve. That's representing our decisions of individual firms. And then we have our green curve down here, which is the marginal private benefit equaling the marginal social benefit. That's reflecting consumers. Because marginal private benefit equals marginal social benefit, there's no externality going on here concerning consumers. There are no externalities in consumption. However, if there were a negative externality in production, what that would mean is that the marginal social cost is higher than the marginal private cost. Our socially optimum level of production is where marginal social costs equal marginal social benefits. There can't be any change away from there that actually increases welfare. That's our socially optimum level. But because of the presence of this negative externality in production, that level is actually going to be a lower level of production, lower level of output than if we were just looking at the private costs and the private benefits. The private outcome is down here where the private curves cross. The socially optimum level is up here where the social curves cross. And so actually we need to reduce production from QP to QS to reach the socially optimum level of production when we have a negative externality in production. Alternatively, we could have a situation where we have a positive externality in production. This means the marginal social costs are now less than the marginal private costs. And again, we've got a similar story. Our socially optimum level of production, which is down here, is now actually going to be greater than where we end up in the free market situation, where the private benefit and the private cost curves cross. So what about if we have externalities in consumption instead? Well, because we've got no externalities in production, our marginal private cost and marginal social cost curves are in the same place. But however, now we're going to think about the effect of a positive externality in consumption. What that will mean is that marginal social benefits will be greater than the marginal private benefits, like this. This moves our socially optimum level of production. We're now up here to be at the socially optimum, while the free market just leaves us down here where the private curves cross. So that means to reach the socially optimum level, we'd need to increase the quantity produced from P1, from QP up to QS. Our final situation then is where we have a negative externality in consumption instead. Because it's in consumption, again it's going to involve shifting the benefits curve. Because it's a negative externality, the marginal social benefits are going to be less than the marginal private benefits, like this. Exactly the same consequence. The socially optimum level is where the social benefit curves and social cost curves cross. So that's here. That's actually a lower level of production than our free market situation. In order to reach the socially optimum level, we need to reduce production from QP down to QS.